Welcome to our special coverage of the India Ideas Summit here in Washington, D.C., organized by the U.S.-India Business Council. Lots of big names, from the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to Google CEO Sundar Pichai, coming together to talk about how U.S. and India can deepen their engagement and further this partnership. Areas of collaboration range from defense to aerospace, infrastructure, clean energy, and of course the digital economy. There are irritants that need to be ironed out, but the view coming in from Secretary Pompeo was clear that both sides would be keen to engage and conduct a dialogue even on some of the outstanding issues that involve trade. Now, there has been a fair amount of convergence on a lot of issues, but as he pointed out, a lot more needs to be done. So first up, here's the Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who will be visiting India shortly, giving us a preview of what to expect from that visit.
The Trump administration has already enabled American companies to export more high-tech items to India. This includes cutting-edge defense platforms like armed UAVs and ballistic missile defense systems. We've already launched the Asia Edge program, to which Meg referred, to help India raise private capital to meet its energy and security needs for years to come. These are solid achievements, but we want to do so much more. We clearly have overlapping interests: defense, energy, space, the list goes on. On defense, the first batch of Apache helicopters are coming off Boeing's production line in Arizona even as we speak. Lockheed Martin's F-21 and Boeing's F-18 are state-of-the-art fighters that could give India the capabilities it needs to become a full-fledged security provider throughout the Indo-Pacific. On energy, we want to complete the Westinghouse civil nuclear project and deliver more LNG and crude. These steps will give Indians reliable, affordable, diversified energy independence, so they will no longer have to rely on difficult regimes like those in Venezuela and in Iran. On space, NASA is already working with the Indian Space Research Organization on the world's most advanced Earth observation satellite and India's second lunar mission. But as we democracies have come to know, that we work out our disagreements. We bring them to the table honestly and fairly, and we'll probably discuss the recent decision on the GSP program. I do hope, we remain open to dialogue, and hope that our friends in India will drop their trade barriers and trust in the competitiveness of their own companies, their own businesses, their own people, and private sector companies. We'll also push for free flow of data across borders, not just to help American companies, but to protect data and secure consumers' privacy. And speaking of privacy, we're eager to help India establish secure communications networks, including 5G networks as well. Look, those are just a few things that sit on the tip of our tongue, at the top of our mind. I can't go into everything we'll discuss here, because I don't want to spoil the surprise. But suffice it to say, this is a deeply important relationship, and I know that these conversations that we will continue with the new government in India that has so much promise for its people, for our relationship, and for the world. I hope together we will finally fulfill the great promise of cooperation that was present at India's birth and which remains evident today. These are big ideas. It's what you all came here for. And they're big opportunities too. And I'm very much looking forward to my trip next week and meeting with Prime Minister Modi and my new counterpart face to face. As Prime Minister Modi said in his latest campaign, he said, "Modi hai to Mumkin hai." Modi makes it possible. I'm looking forward to exploring what's possible between our two peoples.
Well, that was the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo making it clear that they are keen to work with the Modi administration to deepen the engagement, suggesting that they have taken a hard position against Pakistan, ostensibly a move that would benefit India, and also making it clear that on things like the GSP withdrawal, the U.S. was willing to have a dialogue. So we will, of course, keep you updated on Secretary Pompeo's visit to India over the next few days. But let's now talk about a man who was honored here by the U.S.-India Business Council, Sundar Pichai. Of course, from cricket to his move to the U.S. and how he basically got started at Google. Plenty of food for thought there coming in from Pichai, addressing issues on Google's involvement in India, suggesting very clearly that Google is now, in fact, incubating ideas on product development, which they build in India and then sell to the world. So the strategic importance of India being highlighted there. Pichai also making an important point on having harmonized or standardized frameworks for privacy, saying that that will help everyone involved and will help grow the digital economy even faster. So here's Sundar Pichai on a whole host of issues from India to privacy.
You know, we've been in India now for a very, very long time, and you know, we took a very long-term view of our investments there. And you know, and to give you a sense of this, you know, we are very excited to be part of India's growth story. I think the Indian government has done a great job of making technology one of the pillars by which you know, they will improve governance and as well as the socioeconomic conditions there. And so we've been proud to be part of it. You know, just to give a sense of how we contribute to the Make in India program, Android literally powers all phones in India, and we deeply care about making phones cheaper every year so that more people can afford it and access it. But in 2004, there were maybe 2 local Indian manufacturers who would make devices made in India. Now that number is up to well over 200 or so. But our products have played a foundational role, but increasingly it's also happening in reverse. The scale of the Indian market allows us to now develop maybe products there and actually take it out globally as well. And so it's been an interesting trend for the last 3 to 4 years or so. Our payments product, you know, India was moving towards digital payments, so we thought it was the best market to push the future of payments. We tried it there, and it's worked very well, and now that team is taking that payments product and bringing it out of India to the global market. So I think, you know, increasingly we see India not just as an opportunity, but, you know, building in India and serving the rest of the world as well. And so it's an exciting time. The free flow of information, you know, is essential to digital trade, and we all can see the benefits of it. But to ensure that we can actually do it, I think we need better safeguards around privacy, user privacy. I think rightfully so, users are increasingly concerned about it. And I think it's an important moment to create, you know, standardized frameworks, both for users to have choice, control, and transparency, and for companies to be accountable as well, you know, with a clear set of rules. You know, I'm a passionate cricket fan. When I first came here, I tried to kind of adapt to baseball. I have to say it was a bit challenging. You know, in my first game, I was proud because I hit the ball in the back, and it's a really good shot in cricket. And I was like, well, look at what I did, and you know, people didn't appreciate it. In cricket, when you run, you always take your bat with you. So I also ran between bases with my bat as well. So eventually, I realized baseball is a bit difficult. I can adjust on many things, but I'm going to stick to cricket. There's a World Cup cricket going on, and you know, it's a wonderful tournament. Rooting for India to do well, but there's a lot at stake. You're right.
There is indeed. Who do you think is going to be the final match?
You know, it should be England and India, but you know, Australia and New Zealand, these are all very, very good teams. So.
Well, that was Google CEO Sundar Pichai on doing business with India, data privacy norms, and much more. Now, a group that is invested in the US-India relationship is the Tata Group. From power to aerospace, defense, they have varied interests. I caught up with Banmali Agrawala to find out more about the areas of opportunity. For instance, you know, the partnership with Lockheed Martin. Secretary Mike Pompeo talked about the F-18 and the F-21s. Do they see further progress and faster progress on the defense business in India? Take a listen.
I think the entire tone, the messaging was very positive. To me, it sounded like, you know, there's an urge to find common ground, to find solutions rather than find more differences, which is, I think, obviously a very welcome sign. And as you know, Bill, I think India and US do enjoy a great relationship. It's been worked on over the last few years, particularly in the Modi administration over the last tenure. So one expects a lot of positive things to happen.
On defense specifically, I mean, he talked about the Apache program, which is currently underway on the helicopter side. He also talked about the F-18 and the F-21 and said that that could be an area of opportunity for both sides to collaborate on. You have inked your partnership with Lockheed Martin. What's the expectation on getting this off the ground?
Well, so I think the expectation are high. And I would say that in this term, from the government, from the Modi administration, one expects a lot more faster decision making. I think the way the cabinet's been formed, with right people in the right place, with a lot of domain coming in, like in external affairs, in trade and so on, I think there's a lot of expectation. And when it comes to defense particularly, I think India and US have been building on that over the last maybe decade or so. And you heard that again when Secretary Pompeo spoke about, I mean, exchange programs, United Nations cooperation, and all of that. Private business-to-business partnerships as well, and I think we are a great example of how we've built those over the years. And now I think the stage is all set for actually building platforms, a more significant partnership that benefits both India as well as the US and caters to the Indian defense requirement. So we feel very bullish. We are prepared because we've, over the last 7 to 8 years, built our capabilities, competencies, skill set, etc., by plugging into the global supply chain, being suppliers, in some cases, just single source, to large vendors like Boeing and GE and Lockheed Martin, etc. So we feel very bullish about the opportunity.
I just want to get a little bit more color from you on the aspirations as far as the defense side of the Tata's business is concerned. You know, you've gone through that process of consolidating all of your defense-related activities under one umbrella. You talked about the fact that you're now part of global supply chains. Where do you see this business over the next few years?
So it clearly is also a function of at the speed at which the government makes decisions, which, as I just said, I think one does expect the government to start making much faster decisions. And I think one would also expect the government to expand the possibility of the private sector to participate in the entire program and so on. But I think being integrated with the global supply chain is extremely crucial because it is the entire export opportunity that builds some amount of stability to the business rather than the vagaries of individual orders that, you know, maybe at times take a long period to materialize. So I think that balance we seem to have, we are comfortable with. And that's what we are banking on very heavily.
So what is the expectation in terms of possible joint ventures, you know, inking agreements with the likes of Lockheed Martin? I mean, what should we expect from here on as far as the defense side is concerned?
So, I mean, we've already inked those agreements, and so we already have those partnerships. And over this period, as I was saying, over the last 7 or 8 years, we've slowly but certainly further increase capability by supplying more and more components into the global supply chain. So, for example, if you take Lockheed Martin, we will soon be making the F-16 wings in India, which is a fairly sophisticated piece of equipment. We build the empennages for many of the products that we see now in India, I mean, from the defense platform and so on. So I think that trust, the confidence, the capability with these partners has now come up to a stage where we are ready to move on to even bigger things.
Outside of defense, the other areas of future collaboration to build on what has already happened, energy, space and infrastructure. How do you see that as areas of opportunity for you? Because these are all businesses that you're involved with in some form or fashion.
Certainly, and I think if you take energy, for example, and the point that was being made on natural gas and renewables, so I think in the entire space of clean, I think there is clearly an opportunity, and also an opportunity for financial flows, for investment to come in from the US into India in terms of long-term perspectives with a slightly lower threshold of expectation of returns, you know, which is what is really required for infrastructure projects, particularly in the renewable space. So platforms such as the INVIT platforms or the REIT platforms, I think one does expect a lot of capital flow to happen. And I would say that the Indian scenario is getting more stable, getting more predictable, and you already see a lot of interest that is coming up on the table to invest in platforms such as these.
But how big would the aspiration be on the renewable side for the Tatas?
Well, it is very big. I think we've grown our platform slowly but steadily. We haven't been reckless in the way we've approached it. And I think now we've got to figure out a way as to how do we grow this even further, bring in patient capital in a manner that will allow us to deploy our own capital into further development and growing our story. So I think
is
that's
this something that we're going to see happen? Is it on the anvil, the fact that you'd like to bring in capital into the renewable side of the business?
So opportunities we keep evaluating. We are kind of exploring various options. And I think let's see how this plays out.
So what's the target in terms of gigawatts that you would like over the next few years?
Yeah, so let me just say that, well, it's a fairly ambitious. I don't think we have a target in mind from that perspective in terms of quantum. What's important clearly is profitability, returns. I think those are important. We do see that also firming up, meaning it's getting worthwhile for business to invest in, let's say, renewable platforms. So we see some of the craziness that one saw in the recent past kind of now settling down to a little more mature environment. And that, I think, just plays into our strengths because we are strategic investors. We are not financial investors. And from that perspective, all these moves play right into our strength.